Lisbon is often described as a city of sunshine and mass tourism, a place so popular that it sometimes seems to struggle under the weight of its own success. But if you come here at the end of February, you'll find a very different city. While everyone else is waiting for summer, the city quietly exhales. No long lines, no overcrowded palace halls, just calm streets and the first hints of beautiful spring weather. I begin my journey through Portugal here, in the capital. In this video, I'll take you along the iconic monuments of Belém, the hidden splendor of the Ajuda Palace, and the raw soul of the city center. Welcome to Lisbon, when the rest of the world isn't here. I begin this trip on the south bank of the Tagus River at the Cristo Rei monument. This symbol of peace was built in 1949 following a promise by the Portuguese bishops. If the country were spared from the war, a monument to Christ would be erected. The entire structure stands over 110 meters tall and can be seen from almost anywhere in the city. From here, you also have a perfect view of Lisbon itself, with the Ponte 25 de Abril Bridge connecting the two banks of the river. This bridge, nearly 2.3 kilometers long, was originally named after the dictator who ruled the country at the time. However, its name was changed after the dictatorship was ended through a coup. I'm staying in Oeiras, about 15 kilometers outside the city center, and from here I take the train into Lisbon. After a journey of about 20 minutes, you're already in the heart of the city, and with a day pass, you can travel on all public transport throughout the city for the entire day. From the station, I walk through the empty streets. It's still early in the morning. You can clearly see that at the city's most famous square, Praça do Comércio, which lies right along the river. In the past, this square was where ships arrived carrying goods from the Portuguese colonies, and today it forms the vibrant heart of the city. In the middle of the square stands a large statue of King Joseph I of Portugal, which, together with the Arco da Rua Augusta, dominates the square. Both were built during the reconstruction of the city after the devastating earthquake of 1755. From here, I begin the climb to Castelo de São Jorge, which sits on a hill overlooking the city. This castle is one of the oldest and most historically important places in Lisbon. Thanks to its location, people were able for centuries to control the entire city and the mouth of the river from here. Archaeological discoveries show that this site has been inhabited for thousands of years, including by the Phoenicians and the Romans. The Moors, between the 8th and 12th centuries, fortified the hill with walls and towers and built a stronghold that was later expanded into a castle. From the 13th century onward, it became a royal residence. The structure was also damaged by the Great Earthquake, after which it was neglected for a long time. Only in 1930 did the Portuguese government begin a large-scale restoration, and much of what you see today was restored or reconstructed during that time. It has become a beautiful castle where you can explore the courtyards, but also walk along the walls and towers, from which you have breathtaking views over every side of the city. From the castle, I walk back down and make a short stop at the Santa Luzia viewpoint. It is located in the historic Alfama district, just below the castle. The square and its terrace were created in the 20th century to give residents and visitors a panoramic view over the city. This old neighborhood is also where Tram 28 runs. With its yellow historic appearance, it has been passing through the narrow streets of this district since the 1930s. The tram cars, officially called remodelado trams, are specially adapted to handle the steep hills they have to climb. One of the stops along the route is the Lisbon Cathedral, the oldest church in the city. It was built shortly after the conquest of Lisbon in 1147 by the then King of Portugal. Before that, this site was home to a Roman temple and later a Visigothic church and a mosque during the Moorish period. Over the centuries, the cathedral acquired several architectural styles, including Romanesque, Gothic, and later Baroque elements. It is also the seat of the Archbishop, which is reflected in the small museum located here. Inside, you can find richly decorated rooms and many religious artifacts, such as relics, liturgical garments, and old manuscripts. And from the balcony at the front of the cathedral, you also have a beautiful view over the city and the small square in front of the church where the iconic tram passes by. I follow the tram line to its starting point at Martim Moniz Square, from where I begin the climb up to the Miradouro da Senhora do Monte. This viewpoint is located on the hill of Graça, the highest natural viewpoint in the city. From here, you get a stunning view of the castle, offering a completely different perspective on Lisbon. From this spot, you can also walk straight into a small hidden park tucked away between the buildings. This park only opened in 2015 and for centuries served as the private garden of the nearby monastery. Today, it's a place where many locals come to relax and enjoy the pleasant weather in this green oasis in the middle of the city. When I return to the lower part of town, I make a stop at Praça Dom Pedro IV, better known as Rossio. This square forms the heart of the Baixa district, and besides the many elegant buildings surrounding it, you'll also find the National Theatre here. The square features a distinctive black and white wave-patterned pavement, a tribute to the country's maritime heritage. In the center stands a tall column topped with the statue of the first emperor of Brazil. Just a stone's throw from this square is the Santa Justa lift, often referred to as the Eiffel Tower of Lisbon. This iron structure was opened in 1902 and connected the lower part of the district with an area 45 meters higher up. Unfortunately, the lift is closed during my visit, so I have to make do with admiring it from the outside and making the climb on foot. As you walk uphill, you can clearly see the height difference the lift normally overcomes. For many people, it's the perfect way to get around the city. The lift leads up to the Carmo Convent, an impressive site that clearly shows the scars of the city. Once, this was the most important Gothic church in Lisbon, originally built at the end of the 14th century by a knight. During the Great Earthquake of 1755, the roof collapsed here as well, falling onto worshippers attending Mass. What makes this place so special is that it is one of the few sites that was deliberately never rebuilt. Instead, the ruins were left as they are, standing as a reminder of the power of nature and the resilience of the city. Next to the ruins, you'll also find a small archaeological museum featuring medieval tombs, fragments of old palaces, and even 2 pre-Columbian mummies from Peru, which gives the place a slightly eerie atmosphere. And it's not just the church that is filled with history. The square in front of it is also significant. It was here that the dictatorial government surrendered during the Carnation Revolution of 1974, making it a place that marked a turning point in Portuguese history. After a short walk, I arrive back at Praça do Município, the square where I more or less started my day. On this square, you'll find a museum you wouldn't immediately expect among all the historic grandeur, the Money Museum. This free hidden gem is housed in an old 18th century church. Since the 1930s, the building has been owned by the Bank of Portugal, and in 2016, it opened to the public as a modern museum. Here, you can learn a lot about the history of money, but also how banknotes are printed and coins are minted. You'll find banknotes from all kinds of currencies, as well as old gold coins and replicas. The highlight of the museum is a real gold bar weighing 12.6 kilograms that you can actually hold. It's incredible to lift such a heavy block, and at current gold prices, you're holding roughly 1.5 million euros in your hands. For most people, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. In a city that once revolved around trade and exploration, this museum tells a different story, one of value, trust, and the power of money. It's definitely worth a visit. A little further on, I once again walk to the city's grandest square, where the Arco da Rua Augusta is now open to climb. This 18th century triumphal arch was built as a symbol of the city's rebirth after the earthquake. It wasn't fully completed until 1873. An elevator takes you part of the way up, where you come face to face with the massive sculptures that have overlooked the Tagus River for centuries. From here, you have a stunning view of the vast square and the river, and you also start to notice the symmetry of the city with the orderly design of the Baixa district. From the top of the tower, I suddenly hear a loud sound echoing through the city. As in many capital cities, there is a demonstration taking place today. With drums, loudspeakers, and flags, a procession of tens of thousands of people moves through the streets, protesting rising living costs and demanding higher wages. As in many other countries, this is an issue that deeply concerns the people of Portugal as well. Besides Tram 28 and the iconic Santa Justa lift, the city also has another unique mode of transport, the Bica funicular. This cable car was opened in 1892 to help residents overcome the steep height difference between the lower city near the river and the upper neighborhoods. Originally, it operated using water ballast, later by steam, and since 1914 it has been fully electric. Unfortunately, this funicular is also closed during my visit, and most people just pose with the small yellow car for photos. Halfway along the route, a few streets away, you reach the Santa Catarina viewpoint. This spot offers yet another completely different perspective of the city and has become a popular gathering place for locals on a Saturday afternoon. With live music filling the air, people relax here and enjoy the last rays of the day's sun. This day, I mostly explored the city center on foot to see as much as possible. To make some final use of my public transport pass, I take the metro north to Praça Marquês de Pombal. In the middle of a large roundabout stands an enormous statue of this 18th century Portuguese statesman, who was responsible for rebuilding part of the city center after the earthquake. The statue, showing the Marquis resting one hand on a lion, symbolizes power and determination. The square lies next to Parque Eduardo VII, the largest park in the city center. From the top of the park, you get a perfectly aligned view stretching down toward the statue, with the old city, the castle, and the Tagus River beyond. With the sun setting, it's the perfect place to end the day before heading back to the hotel. For the second day, the weather forecast was a bit less promising, mostly cloudy, with rain expected, although that luckily never came. I decided to explore the area around the city and started at the Palace of Queluz. This palace is often referred to as the Portuguese Versailles. It was built in the 18th century as a country residence, but grew into an enormous palace for the royal family. Inside, you'll find a transition between Rococo style and more restrained classicism. The largest and most impressive room is the throne room, entirely covered in gilded wood carvings and enormous mirrors, with a beautifully painted ceiling above. From there, you can walk straight into the music room, the oldest room in the palace. This is where famous opera evenings and chamber concerts took place, thanks to its exceptional acoustics. With the original crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, you can really feel that this was the cultural heart of the court. The Portuguese nobility had a strong passion for Italian opera. Because it's still early in the morning and outside the high season, I'm almost alone here, which makes the experience even more special. You can truly imagine what it must have been like to live here and walk through these richly decorated rooms. Among the many rooms, including the king's bedroom, there is one more particularly remarkable space, the ambassador's room. This is where diplomats were received by the king, and naturally, it had to be richly decorated to reflect the status and prestige of the royal court. One of the most fascinating aspects of the palace is the contrast between its interior and exterior. While the inside is exuberant, filled with mirrors, gold leaf, and elaborate decorations, the outside is much more restrained. From the palace, you can walk straight into the gardens, where you can admire the building from every angle. A stroll through the beautifully designed gardens with their straight lines, fountains, and even a botanical garden where pineapples were cultivated centuries ago truly completes the experience. The palace is not only beautiful, but also rich in history. Queen Maria I was confined here after her mental health declined following the loss of her husband and eldest son. King Dom Pedro IV was also born here and later died here at the age of 35 from tuberculosis. He was a crucial figure in history. He gave Portugal a modern constitution and declared the independence of Brazil, which at the time was still a Portuguese colony. The next stop of the day is the district of Belém, located along the Tagus River about 6 kilometers west of the old city center. This area feels very different from the center. Here, you'll find a large war memorial dedicated to those who died during the colonial wars of the 1960s and 70s. The two massive slanted pillars symbolize connection, with a flame between them in memory of the more than 9,000 soldiers who lost their lives. Surrounding the monument are the names of all these soldiers. It's almost unreal to see how many people died in this conflict. Not far from this memorial stands the Tower of Belém, built in the early 16th century. What makes this tower unique is that it once stood in the middle of the river, but after the Great Earthquake, even the course of the river changed, leaving it much closer to the shore. During my visit, this iconic structure is under renovation and unfortunately cannot be entered. Along the waterfront, you'll also find several other landmarks, including the old harbor and a relatively modern lighthouse, as well as an enormous monument that almost looks like a stone group portrait of Portugal's golden age. It was built in the shape of the bow of a ship used during the Age of Discoveries. At the front stands Henry the Navigator, who played a key role in promoting these voyages. The other 32 figures represent important historical characters, such as explorers, cartographers, kings, and poets. A little further along the coast lies another remarkable historic site, the Mosteiro dos Jerónimos. This monastery also dates back to the 16th century and stands as a symbol of the immense wealth of that era. The king spent fortunes to make this the most luxurious building in the country, and it took nearly 100 years to complete. During my visit, the building is partly covered in scaffolding and unfortunately closed, so it can only be admired from the outside. Thanks to the ground it was built on and its construction style, it survived the Great Earthquake largely unharmed. At the time, this was seen as a sign from God, further strengthening the building's spiritual significance. There is much more to see in this district, elegant buildings, and of course, the iconic tram still running through the streets. From Belém, I head up to the nearby district of Ajuda. Here you'll find the National Palace of the former royal family. Although the exterior may not seem particularly impressive, the interior is truly stunning. After the earthquake, the king no longer wanted to stay in the city center or sleep in a stone building. Instead, a wooden palace was built on the hill of Ajuda. About 40 years later, it burned down, forcing the royal family to build a stone palace after all, forming the basis of the current structure. After fleeing from Napoleon and later returning, the palace was largely completed and became a true home for the royal family. The rooms and halls were filled with comfort, paintings, and lavish decorations. But by around 1900, poverty in the country had grown significantly. The king was increasingly seen as a dictator, and political chaos took over. Republican movements gained strength, and in 1908, the king and his eldest son were assassinated. The remaining family members withdrew into the palace, but in 1910, they were forced to leave for good when the Republic was proclaimed. Although the palace was never fully completed, its halls are of extraordinary beauty, as the royal family lived here until the very last days of the monarchy and left everything behind. One of the most remarkable rooms is the throne room, decorated in red silk and gold, with a magnificent ceiling painting from 1825 glorifying royal power. To this day, this room is still used for the swearing in of new governments. The grand dining hall is equally impressive. Used for state banquets, it features long tables, crystal chandeliers, and richly decorated walls and ceilings. Up to 160 guests could dine here, and even today it is still used for official state banquets by the president. Not only the public rooms, but also the private chambers are richly decorated, such as the Blue Room and the Winter Garden, entirely covered in marble tiles. This once served as an indoor garden filled with exotic birds and rare plants brought from the colonies. This palace feels like a story of almost completed, almost secure, almost the eternal seat of a dynasty that ultimately slipped through the fingers of history. While the monarchy fell, the palace lived on and continues to be used in the Republic. Ajuda is therefore a true monument of Portugal, a bridge between the glory of the past and the power of the present. From Ajuda, I take one final drive through the Parque Florestal de Monsanto to enjoy a last view over the city, especially the long bridge and the statue of Christ where my journey in Lisbon began. Lisbon is a city of contrasts, from the grandeur of Ajuda Palace to the narrow, raw streets of Alfama. What do you think is the true face of Lisbon? Let me know in the comments. In the next video, I'll take you a bit further west to the fairy tale hills of Sintra. There, you'll find even more spectacular palaces, mysterious castles, and above all, beautiful gardens and parks. A perfect destination to combine with a trip to Lisbon. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any part of my journey through Portugal. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.